Thank you. We're coming to the memorial, the remembrance for our friend Tinka Gordon. Special thanks to the guitarist, Brad Duffy, who played for us for the last hour. And also special thanks to the family members who have been responsible for planning this event, in particular Holly Gordon, Gail Gordon, and Arnie Fishman. I expect that not everybody here has signed the book yet, so please be sure before you leave to sign the book. I expect that each one of us, I should introduce myself. I'm John Isbister. I used to be a professor at UC Santa Cruz. Don't know what I am now. And it'll be my privilege to guide us through the ceremony today. I expect that each one of us was shocked at hearing of Tinka's death. In the intervening month and a half, we've been grieving privately, or at most with a few other people. Today is the day when we come together as a community, the community of Tinka's friends, colleagues, loved ones, to share our grief, and not only our grief, but our joy and our gratitude at having had her as a part of our life. We come here today from every part of her life, and as a consequence, I expect that every one of us will learn something new about her, maybe something surprising. However, I need to caution you that the speakers are not going to try to sum up her life. That somebody whose life was as rich and generative as Tinka's, that would be impossible. Instead, each one of us will speak from our heart, and we'll try to convey something of what she meant to us. We'll attempt to say just enough that we trigger in you your own memories of Tinka, your own joys and sorrows. The first speaker is one of her oldest friends, Karen Rhodes.
Thank you, John, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm Karen Rhodes, and I've been invited to speak on behalf of her many friends from her days at UC Santa Cruz. I'm honored and humbled to be able to offer up a few remarks. I may slip into the present tense at times because I think of today as an opportunity to be with Tinka in the here and now. You may also find me using the second person because I want to be able to say thank you to Tinka for the formative role she plays in my own life. I met Tinka in 1972 when we both arrived as freshmen at UCSC. We became roommates in the dorms and later shared various households in Santa Cruz before moving on to subsequent chapters of our lives. In thinking about what to say today, I found myself pulling up a few letters she wrote to me from Washington, D.C., where she spent a summer as an aide to Senator Walter Mondale, and later from Boston, where she took time off from college to write for the progressive economic journal Dollars and Cents. In these letters, she talks about trying to distinguish herself from the close-knit but possibly airtight setting of a West Coast college town and establish her independence as an actor in the world. Here are some passages from one of her Washington letters that made me smile. Dear Karen, the atmosphere here in Washington is definitely not conducive to philosophical contemplation. Washington is a place based on action. My housemates, 3 of them are pre-law and very aggressive, are not prone to contemplative exercises, as are most of the people I know from Santa Cruz. Karen, as one country hick to another, you would not believe the activity in this town. 5 or 6 nights a week I go out, for a drink, to parties, to dinner. In Santa Cruz, we could afford to be discriminating and avoid parties, but here I feel there are so many people to meet that I love going out. Later in Tinka's letters from Boston, she describes her struggle to hold her own among the PhD economists, all male, in the so-called collective at Dollars and Cents. Reading those passages, I'm reminded of the powerful role that Tinka has played in shaping my own consciousness as a feminist. In Santa Cruz, Tinka helped organize a feminist study group, and this was outside of class. I don't think any courses along these lines were being offered at the time, where we would read and then discuss the work of such writers as Simone de Beauvoir and Shulamith Firestone. The idea was to try to reconcile the perhaps dualities of socialism and feminism. Shauna, I think you were a part of that, so cast your mind back and see if you can't remember those discussions in a bedroom at 152 Kenneth Street. I will say one last thing about these letters. They seem to have been written in response to long missives I had sent her. I'm really glad I do not have copies of those letters. The thought fills me with mortification. Apparently, I was writing to her about the complete set of Dostoevsky's novels I was attempting to read and holding forth about such notions as organic wholeness. I actually used that phrase. But Tinka, in her responses to me, took me seriously, and in her own distinctive dialectical style, she'd offer up questions that explored the tensions and the contradictions in what I had to say. I will always be grateful to you, Tinka, for what I can only describe as your thoughtfulness. This is a word we use when we describe a gift or a card or a similar act of kindness, and all of us have certainly been beneficiaries of Tinka's thoughtfulness in this sense. But Tinka also gave us the gift of her full and honest attention and her deep respect for us in all our foolishness. Thank you, Tinka, for loving our best possible selves.
Thank you, Karen. Another very long-standing friend of Tinka's is Alicia Stanton. Alicia.
I want to say how amazed I am by Karen and making it through and not crying. So don't expect me to do that, because I'm not even sure I can get through this part. And can you hear me? And let me know, okay, because it's, anyway. I want to thank Holly first, because she asked me to be here to speak, and it's given me a chance to really think about Tinka in a way that I would have been anyway, but much more deeply, and remember things that mean so much to me. Sorry. And we've had almost 50 years of friendship, and I actually remember them when they first were in Mill Valley, and it just sort of vaguely remember then. But then you went away to Chevy Chase and came back, and when you came back, it was a really foggy day when I first saw you, typical of Belvedere. And all three girls came, and I felt like I had the choice to make a friend out of any one of them. I think Holly had been my friend back in Mill Valley, and Gail, there was something about her. She was kind of more like me, I think, a little wild or playful. But Tinka was sort of perfect. She was slender, blonde, and she had these bangs that came just down to her forehead, and she looked, like a model. And during that time, that was what we all wanted: is straight hair and perfection, and that was how she was. Anyway, I felt like I got to choose. It was kind of like a fairy tale to have a choice of three perfect potential friends. But it was like after the first day, I knew it was Tinka. And it always was after that. And we were so close. Marty and Bob were in Belvedere because they were looking for a home to move to. And they found their wonderful house on Bella Vista. And I hope some of you have been there, because it was really magical. It had a billiard room. It had laundry chute. I think it had a dumbwaiter. Was that just my imagination? And it had all these sort of secret places that we could go to. And so we were free to explore the house. And being in Belvedere, our parents thought everything was so safe that we were allowed out on our own at all sorts of times. And we used to get up really early in the morning before dawn and either walk the back streets, the little lanes of Belvedere, or get on our bikes and ride around and hide in people's backyards. And Belvedere is surrounded by water, so we were able to play in the water, doing a lot of really foolish things, but it was just a sense of freedom, and we were able to grow up with that. And I think it was because my parents knew the Gordons so well that they always assumed that we would be safe. And somehow we were. We would take the ferry into San Francisco by ourselves, and we would hitchhike to Mount Tam and go hiking, and we never got hurt. We never got in trouble, and we always felt kind of blessed. So I am grateful that Tinka was part of that for me, because it gave me a strength that allowed me to go on and explore the world. I don't think I could have done that on my own. I really was passionate about was helping other people. And she kind of got me started on doing volunteering and different things that I would have been too shy to do. Even as when we were very young, we were candy stripers together. Do you remember? Anyway, the hardest part of our early time together was as we were growing and we were just coming into puberty and sort of filling out. Tinka was diagnosed with her back growing crooked, and so she had to have surgery, and the surgery left these long scars up her legs that kind of looked like boot lace holes, and a long zipper scar down her back, and her perfect posture. But the worst thing of all, she had to spend a whole summer in a cast on her back in bed, and not even in her bedroom, but just in the study next to her parents' bedroom. She couldn't do anything but lie on her back. She couldn't even turn over. And I would come and I'd walk, it's like 1.5 miles or something, to their house every day. And Holly reminds me one day I found $20 in the street. I would bring Tinka things. I remember I had brought her a kitten, because my mother was always having kittens and needed to give them away. And so we tried to do things that would amuse her. But the thing is that Tinka never complained, ever, about what was going on. And I know that the saddest thing about that experience was not the pain or the discomfort, but the fact that she caused her mother grief, to not be able to, she worried about her mother, and she didn't worry about herself. She trusted that she would heal. And she, as I said, never complained about what she was going through. And she moved beyond it. She was just as strong afterwards, and just as physical and just as active. And I imagine all of you knew her after her surgery and knew her as an active person. And we kept on the hiking and exploring, and I think that those were the happiest days of my life as a child. As I said, Tinka went beyond just what she could do in Belvedere, and she was always trying to reach out and help others. And in addition to working as a convalescent help, she got me into a couple other volunteering things, and one was doing draft counseling. And I think I was 16 or 17, and we were supposed to be counseling these 18-year-olds on how to avoid the draft. And I know that I wasn't any good at it, and I imagine that she probably was very good. But I think I dropped out early, and she kept on going. And another thing was we volunteered at San Quentin. And I don't know, people drive between Marin and the East Bay and drive past San Quentin, and it's really easy to ignore it and think that it doesn't affect any of us. But she went there, and she worked in the daycare center there and encouraged me to come along and help. And I just think that that was a passion for her to help others, and I think she kept that all through her life, and it warmed my heart. I felt I couldn't meet it and couldn't match it, but I really appreciated it. We both went to UCSC, and I stayed in Santa Cruz, and she moved on and did so many other things. But what was wonderful is that when she knew she was pregnant with Max, she reconnected with me and made sure that I was part of Max's life, and had me go to or invited us all to his birthday parties. And I remember her telling me, soon after Max was born, how proud she was of her body and how it had come through for her in this most important time, even though it had been so frustrating for her in so many other ways, that when she was at the, the most important thing in her life ever, it came through. And I know, Max, because she told me that you were the greatest thing she ever did. She loved you more than anything. Happily, Tinka and I had a lot of time together as parents because of Bolinas. And I'm hoping that some of you here know Bolinas, and I know some of you know the barge at Bolinas. And I just want to say that it was the most beautiful and magical place. And we were able to go back there every year and be together as friends and family and kind of relive how we had been as children and let our children be there and play in the water. And for me, that's how I want to remember Tinka, is the times that we were there looking out across the bay at Kent Island and just being together, even if we weren't speaking. And I'm hoping I can hold that in my heart forever, because I never want to give up Tinka. I still see her over and over, and there's a place in my heart that will not accept that she's not with us any longer, because I know that that's like the best part of me. And I'm not going to give her up, and I'm not going to forget her.
Thanks, Alicia. The next few speakers are from, are from Tinka's workplaces, some of them, from her professional life. The first one is from Ghirardelli Chocolates. Now, from Ghirardelli Chocolates, we actually have 3 speakers to share the time slot. The reason we have so many speakers from Ghirardelli Chocolates is as a symbol of the latest scientific nutritional research study from the National Institutes of Health, confirming the finding that you can never have too much chocolate. Julie Halpin, Suzanne Khalili, and the CEO, Marty Thompson.
Good afternoon. My name is Marty Thompson. Tinka Gordon spent nearly 13 years at Ghirardelli, and she made a difference to our brand and to our company. Before I talk to Tinka's lasting impact at Ghirardelli, I want to communicate heartfelt condolences to her family. Krista, my wife, and I would like to let you know that our thoughts and prayers are with you, and they have been these last few weeks and will continue to be in the coming days. I met Tinka almost exactly 11 years ago. In the spring of 2004, I was interviewing to become the head of sales for Ghirardelli Chocolate Company. It was typical in these situations that I would interview not only with the boss, who in this case would be the CEO, but also with my colleagues, prospective colleagues. And while it was the CEO who would ultimately offer me the job, it was clear that to be hired, I had to pass muster with Tinka. Tinka had to say yes. Well, long and short, I was hired, and I found out later that in addition to our 2 face-to-face discussions, Tinka had thoroughly vetted me through her Clorox network. Clorox being my employer at the time, she wanted to make sure that she had a clear view into my reputation, my work style, and all the rest. Tinka and I worked closely together for 3 years. She is head of marketing and I as head of sales, and I came to appreciate that this was typical Tinka style, taking a leadership role in a key initiative, employing a smart approach, using all the available resources at her disposal, doing her homework to reach the best possible outcome. Now, I'd like to tell you about 3 things I believe to be her legacy at Ghirardelli. First, Tinka was a great teammate. Everybody wants to work with smart, passionate, knowledgeable, and collaborative colleagues, and Tinka was all of these for sure. But I also found her to be pragmatic and transparent about what was motivating her. This is not to say that Tinka was always an easy teammate. You can see, people know that. Her intellect and her experience led her to be firm in her convictions, and she would argue hard for what she believed in. But you know, one of the things that made her a great teammate was that once you earned her trust, she would give you that trust back many times over in support, and she did. Second part of her legacy, Tinka built a great team, and it's fantastic to see old colleagues and friends here with me, part of her team. One of the best aspects of our company is our great people. And when I joined Ghirardelli in 2004, by far the deepest and most talented organization of any in the company was Tinka's marketing team. Tinka had over the years handpicked each and every member. They were smart, virtually all coming from top business schools. They were committed, and they worked well with others across the company, including sales. At least two that I know of, Mona Mayer and Danielle Jin, went on ultimately to run their own marketing organizations. And there were many, many other talented people on her team. Tinka was great at attracting and leading a capable team. Third and finally, Tinka left us with a strong brand and great products. Tinka was the marketing force behind the creation of the Ghirardelli Square in 1999, our peppermint bark products in 2003, our first national TV advertising in 2004, and so on, including the 2006 launch of the Intense Dark brand. These were all huge initiatives for us back in the day, and they continue to be hero products for us today. I don't mean to give you the impression that these products were hers alone. It didn't work like that at our company, and it didn't have to. Remember, Tinka was a great teammate, and she built a talented team around her. So many people from across the company joined together to make these initiatives and product launches successfully happen. And that's how we still work today. We are talented and committed teammates working together to build our products, our brand, and our company. Thank you, Tinka, for giving us the foundation for teamwork, for building and leading teams, and marketing innovation. Thank you, Tinka, for spending part of your life and career leading us by your example.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you, Arnie, for reaching out to me to speak today. Tinka was probably the best boss I ever had. Hopefully none of my other bosses are in the room today. When I think of her, the things that come to mind, as many people have already said, intelligence, kindness, integrity, her infectious laugh, all of which made working with her a wonderful experience. Tinka was a mentor to me in every sense of the word. I was already working at Ghirardelli when she started there as director of marketing. It was a small department, nothing like the structure that exists today. And I was not one of those people that came from a top business school. I worked my way up there. And during the 4.5 years that we worked together, through training, through sharing her extensive knowledge, and helping me realize my own abilities, Tinka really paved the way for me to become the first brand manager at Ghirardelli. A couple years after I left the company, Tinka and I lost touch for quite some time. About 14 years, actually. Our lives took different paths, geographically, career-wise, how that happens. We all get busy. And it wasn't until last year when I was looking to get back into marketing in the food industry that I reached out to Tinka. I have to say I was feeling pretty insecure and pretty daunted by the whole endeavor after I'd been away from the business world for almost 15 years. But Tinka, of course, was genuinely happy to hear from me. We had a really nice lunch and did our best to catch up on work and kids and life. Of course, she was incredibly proud of Max, who I hadn't seen since he was about 2, 3. And she had some valuable advice for me. She reached out to her own network on my behalf. And without giving it a thought, she said she would hire me in a second, which was probably the biggest confidence boost I could have gotten because, as most of you know, I'm sure, Tinka's not the type that would just say something like that to make someone feel good. When I got a job offer, she was the first person I called to get her perspective, which she gladly gave in her business-like and matter-of-fact but very loving way. Maybe most importantly, as I've been thinking about Tinka and her memorial, what keeps coming up for me is this. I knew that the things that people would say about Tinka today are the same things I hope that will be said about me when I'm no longer here. Excuse me. And if that's not the definition of a role model, I don't know what is. "19 years ago, Tinka and Julie hired me. Tinka was the new vice president of marketing, Julie was the brand manager, and I was a brand schlep. Tinka informed me at the time that I had to start immediately because she was very pregnant with Max, who arrived soon after. At any minute, as she said. Tinka was my boss, off and on, for the following 10 years. I was a Ghirardelli. She grew to be a great confidant, and she was definitely my mentor. With Tinka as your boss, she pushed you. She challenged you because she believed in you. When you worked on her team, you knew that Tinka had your back. She was incredibly smart, but always so down to earth. She had a great sense of humor. She had a great laugh. It was infectious. Her ability to remember and retain facts, and particularly numbers, never ceased to amaze me. When I picture her face, I always picture her face with a smile. She was an intent listener, she was sensitive, and she was kind. I will never forget the kindness that she showed me when I went through a breakup with a man that at the time I claimed I would never get over. I did. But Tinka saw me cry, and behind closed doors, she hugged me until it passed. Tinka was an incredible advocate for women, as the mostly female staff of the then marketing department at Ghirardelli can attest to. When there would be meetings, the Swiss would come in from Lindt. There'd be a room full of men in suits, and there would be Tinka. When I was pregnant with my first child, she threw me a baby shower at her house, and she did all the cooking. When I had my twins, soon after that, she took time out of her busy schedule to come to my house, bring lunch, stop, and have tea, and have a visit in my very then chaotic life. She always showed such grace, such kindness, and I'll remember her fondly, always.
Paul Zahos worked with Tinka at Inspired Foods. Paul?
Hello, my name is Paul. My colleagues from Inspired Foods and I had the honor and privilege of working with Tinka during her 3 years there. On behalf of all of us, I would first like to offer our condolences to Arnie and to Max and to Tinka's family. And then I'd like to share with you a little bit about our experience and the wonderful time that we had to spend with Tinka. At Inspired, we were a relatively small group it's a small company. We're all kind of thrown together with the mission of trying to stabilize a company that was sinking and turn it around, if you will. The entire team was new. We all got along and we were doing okay, but there was something missing in the company. And that was until Tinka joined our team. Our first thoughts were, Tinka, who is this person behind such an interesting name? And then we met her and had the wonderful experience of working with her. But more importantly, we all became friends. She pulled us together in the way only a person with an extraordinary mind, heart, and soul could do. Tinka was brilliant. She was a leader, but she did so in a way that nobody felt you're on a different level than her. She was rational, always keeping her cool and communicating in a manner that was to the point, yet it was sprinkled with warmth. Tinka was respected and liked by all. She also, as I'm sure many of you know, had an extraordinary, wonderful sense of humor. She had the ability to laugh at the absurdity of some of the business situations that we would find ourselves in, and by doing so, she enabled us all to do our very best. She would add to whatever the topic of humor was, and the little kid in her would pop out for just a second. She would add a line, a quip, or describe something that would take the humor in the situation to the next level. And then she would laugh. It was a beautiful thing to experience. When we were on a bit of a roll in the market with an initiative or specific project, Tinka would never take credit. She was a very humble person. She was a person with tremendous dignity. The one thing that would push Tinka and take her to a level of contentedness was when she would talk about Max. When she spoke of Max, she would light up and take such incredible pride in who he was. It was the level of love that was so evident, a mom clearly supporting the hopes and dreams of a child she loved dearly. As a parent, it was a beautiful, beautiful thing to witness. I would like now to share some quotes from some of the other folks at Inspired who had the opportunity to work with Tinka. From Bill, when Tinka first joined Inspired, she brought a sense of maturity, accountability, professionalism, and respect. Had Inspired not been sold, I believe Tinka would have become our CEO, and she would have been great. From Lynn, I found Tinka to be very charismatic and probably the first marketing person I've ever encountered who asked for the input from the sales department. From Sylvia, Tinka had the ability to connect with all levels of people inside and outside the company. She didn't talk down to you. She did not put on airs. And from Karen, Tinka was one of the best bosses I've ever had. She was very, very smart, but also down to earth, and she fostered trust. She had such a merry laugh and a wonderful sense of humor. In 2008, our company was purchased by a larger concern. Our office was basically disbanded, and we all went our separate ways. But there was a small group of us who at first became a team, and we later became friends, and we had all become great friends, largely due to Tinka. So we started a little tradition, a tradition we all really cherished and looked forward to, and that was coming together once a year at one of our homes to get together and to say hello and to update each other on our respective lives. It was always so wonderful seeing everybody, seeing Sylvia, Karen, Bill, and of course Tinka. Our last get-together was on November 17th, just a few months ago. Tinka was there. She was there as Tinka always was, friendly, warm, dignified, intelligent, respectful, funny, and kind. What we didn't know then was how brave she was. She gave no clue to her illness. That was her lack of selfishness front and center. We all talked, we ate, and we laughed. Tinka was her usual wonderful self. She added so much to that evening. She added so much to our time at Inspired, and she added so much to our lives. She'll be missed dearly.
Tinka's last company was Round Table Pizza. Rob McCourt.
My name is Rob McCourt. I'm CEO of Round Table Pizza, and I had the distinct honor and privilege to work with Tinka. Not only was the honor and privilege on a professional level, it was really on a personal level with Tinka. We first met in 2008. Our business was really struggling. You know, our company is a little different. We've got an employee-owned company with 2,500 people, 160 franchisees that put their money and life on the line day in and day out to reward their families. So we needed to find someone that could make a real difference. Someone that could help turn our company around. Someone that could relate to 2,500 employees. Someone that really cared. And for all of us in the room, you know that Tinka would be the perfect person for that job. Now, I could take time discussing how instrumental she was in saving our company. Her leadership, her creativity, her financial discipline. She always had her calculator with her. It was amazing. It brought a CFO by training to tears. Her marketing brilliance really, truly saved our company. But I'd rather share a couple of stories about the personal side of Tinka at work. You see, she really, really cared about people. And she subordinated our own needs to the needs of others. I can remember back in 2011, we're just starting to get out of it. She came into my office, she closed the door. She said, "Boss, I don't want to raise this year. My people are working way too hard. To the contrary, I want you to cut my pay so I can hire another person to help my team out." And that is the kind of selfless act and people and how she put the people and the company before herself. It was truly, truly amazing. I had the privilege of traveling with Tinka 4 times a year. We would go out and see franchisees. And that was also very, very telling because you've got 160 franchisees out there. And she really took the time to listen to each and every franchisee's point of view. And not only was she listening, but then she would work on figuring out how she's going to change the support to make them successful. And so when we got the news in the company about the passing of Tinka, there was just such a great outpouring of support. And I'm just going to share one example from a franchisee, and this is from Dave and Pat Quatman down in Southern California. And the email went on to say, Tinka really cared about me and cared about my franchise. I was always impressed about her sincerity and how to market my business and my market. To lose someone that cared so much about me hurts so bad. I had a chance 2 years ago. She met at a conference with Tinka, and Tinka told the stories of her family and the great love that she has for you, Arnie, and you, Max. She'll be missed. That's what the franchisee had to say. You know, Tinka made a real positive impact on the company over the last 7 years. And I've worked with a lot of marketing folks, and from the sounds of it, there's a lot of marketing folks in this room. But she is truly the best marketing person I've ever worked with, hands down. You know, speaking for everyone at Roundtable, I don't want to leave you today with, the business accomplishments. I just want to leave you with the thoughts that, she was absolutely a real person, and that's why we mourn her loss so great. She was the rare person that treated every human being with respect. She always found the time to listen. She absolutely looked for ways to help everybody out. And possibly above all, she listened, and she gave the rare gift that she patiently listened to every word that you said. I am sure that she's looking down on us today, listening to us, protecting us, caring for us, loving us, because that's what you did. To Tinka's family, thanks for allowing me the time to share my thoughts today. Tinka left a great legacy. Max, your mom is a real special person and was extremely proud of you. She always talked about you and about your baseball. And she just wanted to know, I just want to let you know that the time that she had with us, she gave us the most wonderful gift. She gave herself to us. So thank you.
That's the end of the section on Tinka's workplaces, except that I do want to say that those weren't her only workplaces. She also worked at Clorox, and there's some people here from Clorox I know. And before all of those companies, after she graduated, she worked at the Santa Cruz Community Credit Union, and there are a lot of people here from the Santa Cruz community, a lot of members of the Santa Cruz Community Credit Union. There, as far as board and staff members, there are at least Arnie Fishman, Ginger McNally, Mary Bennett, Joe Kenny. They're all over, right? So, and me, right? So I'll just say about those years that I don't think our credit union would be here now if it wasn't for her. I'll put it that way. Besides which, she started Odwalla Juice. You saw that in the program. Sarah Hodling is a close friend of Tinka's, and she regrets very much that she cannot be here today. And she wrote a letter, however, and asked if I would read it, and here is her letter. One cannot talk about Tinka without saying that she had a heart of gold, or without mentioning her great laugh, that giggle, or her dimples, or her way of speaking, which had a happy, quick rhythm to it, or without saying that she was unusually generous, thoughtful, and kind. She made you feel truly seen and appreciated. I first met Tinka through Max in the years when Max was little. Imagine that. And I helped him as a writing tutor on things like his bar mitzvah speech and his high school application essays. I met Tinka before I was married and before I had children. I now have 2 little boys. But what I did not realize at the time was that she was showing me, by her example, what true, deep mother love is like. She loved the play that motherhood involves. I remember her happy fondness when she spoke of the hours and hours that she and Max spent building incredibly intertwining train tracks and towers of blocks, and of their times playing in the water in Hawaii, or seeing Max play with his cousins Daniel and Jeremy. I was deeply touched when she handed down many of Max's childhood toys and clothes to me and my sons. I don't know if you realize that you've lost these toys, Max, but they're gone. Which included a perfectly intact toy garbage truck, complete with a city's worth of sanitation workers, recycling bins and little tools, one awesome pair of purple pants with green and black stripes, adorable blue corduroy overalls made from the softest cotton, t-shirts adorned with baseballs, of course, and Max's famous giant orange plastic bat, the first bat which turned him into the stellar slugger he is today, though his first targets were not baseballs, but lemons, which Arnie pitched to him in the backyard. So we all learned something, so that's what I learned, surprising today. Tinka understood everyone's inherent need to play and saw such joy in it. Yet she also taught me that, out of love, a good mother holds her son to the highest standards, challenges him to give 110% instead of just 100, because she sees in him the potential always to do his very best, and because a mother sees this potential in her child, he will rise to the occasion. For those of you who know Max, you too know that so much of his amazing mom now lives on in him, in his intelligence, in his incredibly sweet and gentle nature, which is matched only by his absolute personal integrity and sense of honor, and his sense of play and fun. I miss Tinka dearly and feel blessed to have had her as a role model and friend. That's Sarah's letter. So obviously one of Tinka's most important identities was that of parent. Her friend Amy Mueller was a member of her parent community at Park Day School. Now, where is Amy? Here's Amy.
So this is my wife, Allison, and we're going to do this together. I'm Amy, and this is Allison, and we are longtime friends of Tinka and Max and Arnie. We starting the first day of kindergarten at Park Day School. Arnie has asked us to speak on behalf of the parents at Park Day School, and I've seen lots of Park Day from our families from our cohort here. And we would like to share our love for Tinka, and we have some things that some of the parents have sent us as well. I also want to acknowledge that one of the things that brought us back together as a community over the years has been some of the early passings of our members. And that fact, that in our grief we return to support one another, is a testament to how important each member of this community really is. And we're here today in Tinka's memory, and Tinka stood out at Park Day in her quiet, unassuming presence. She never sought the spotlight, but rather was a powerful part of the infrastructure of Park Day, and especially of our cohort. She was always there at every field trip. She brought snacks constantly, can I say Ghirardelli? She really added a lot to all of the children through her presence.
I'm going to miss Tinka so much. Every time I pick up a mystery novel or eat a chocolate-covered strawberry or have some apricot chicken, I'll think about her. I'm so sorry. So here's some of the quotes that we got from families. Julie B. says, I guess what comes to mind for me when I think of Tinka is that she seems so strong, solid, steady, loving, and devoted to Max and Arnie, and always accepting and kind to everyone. She seemed genuinely open-hearted and non-judgmental toward others.
Melinda D., best friend to have on a camping trip because she brought the most delicious chocolate treats.
Peter D. When I think about Tinka, the words kind, caring, generous, loving come immediately to mind. Quick to smile and laugh, Tinka was always welcoming to me and my kids. She enjoyed the company of others and loved celebrations like Passover, a beautiful spirit who radiated joy.
This is from Leanne B. I didn't know Tinka well, but the love, devotion, and kindness in your family was palpable, even from a distance. She will be missed by beyond measure. She counsels, please give yourself a lot of time to weep and know that we will weep with you. And when the tears have slowed, search your heart. May you find Tinka's joy in you at every milestone and turning point in your life, still pulsing in your heart. And you will do her proud.
That's pretty moving.
Yeah. Lisa H. A few words that come to mind when I think of Tinka. Authentic, wonderful, wonderful sensibilities, wise, devoted, loving, such a lovely woman.
For us, Tinka was a model parent and a loving friend, and she was extremely gracious and kind to everyone, as many people have attested today. I cannot think of a time when she ever said no to any request of any kind. A few memories, I already said, can we say Ghirardelli chocolate, but I think it's worth saying again. Boxes of them at every occasion, in every flavor, magically appearing in large quantities at all school events. And on that note, Tinka actually introduced me to the 92% bitter chocolate, strong, whatever it's called. And I actually remember her relishing watching me taking that first bite.
Park Day Readathon. Tinka on a big pillow with Max, reading aloud with a group of rapt kids listening every year. Go ahead. So let's embrace our love for Tinka and her big-bellied laugh and know that she will be with us forever.
I also just wanted to say to Max and Arnie that I think that your Park Day community who are here and here with you in spirit will carry you, and you can count on us all the time.
Thank you. It's my turn to say a few words. I have three topics. The first relates to Max, the second to our youngest son, Will, and the third to me. Max, you lost your mother far too soon. In the years to come, I hope you will be sustained by the knowledge that your mother loved you enormously. As you know, I often talk with her. And when I asked her about her life, she always started in the same place, with you. You were the center of her life. She admired you, she worried about you, she made plans for you. She delighted in being with you, she loved you, and you had a huge impact on her. For example, and you may not believe this, but before you came along, she had no interest in baseball. You changed that for her. You actually changed everything for her. You will always have her love. It's a part of you. It's deep inside you. She's gone, but you will never lose her love. And I hope that gives you some comfort. 2. Tinka was Will's godmother. A few days after she died, I reminded him that as his godmother, she was responsible for guiding his moral development. He thought about that for a minute, and then he said, completely seriously and without irony, "She did a pretty good job, didn't she?" Yes, she did. 3. Long ago, when Tinka was 25, we were sweethearts. It didn't last long, less than a year, but I loved her, and it was a good time, a painful time when it ended. Happily, we reconnected as lifetime friends, eventually as family friends, Tinka, Arnie, and Max, Roz, Will, and me. I'll tell you about 2 brief episodes in that long friendship, episodes that are far apart in years, but similar. She had her first cancer when she was 34. I visited her in the hospital and brought her a teddy bear. I was terrified of losing her. I tried to hide it. At the end of the visit, I asked her if she knew what was coming next. What I meant was, did she know what sort of therapy she was scheduled for? But that's not how she heard the question. "Yes," she said. "Yes, what happens next is that I'm going to live." "That's right," I said. She did live, of course. She survived that illness for 26 years. On her most recent birthday, you know her birthday is the 4th of July, I sent her an email from Toronto, where we live now, and she replied. Here's the exchange. "Happy birthday, Tinka. I gather from the last time we talked that you're not ecstatic about turning 60. I get that, but I have a different perspective. It doesn't seem that long ago, but maybe it was 25 years, that I was desperately afraid you wouldn't see your next birthday. I would have given my right arm to know that one day you would celebrate your 60th. You were a gift. Love, John." To which she replied a few hours later, "John, thank you for your sweet birthday thoughts. Actually, while I'm not thrilled to be 60, I am thrilled to be alive. I'm happy to be here to send Max off to college and welcome him home, and I'm happy to be here for many more reasons, one of which is you. Love, Tinka." So there you have Tinka. She loved life, all her life. When she was 34, when she was 60, as far as I can tell, all the other years as well. Just look at the picture of her in the program. That's who she was. "I'm thrilled to be alive," she said. How many of us say that? Even to ourselves, we should. Maybe that's her legacy to all of us. I'm thrilled to be alive. It's an inspiration. And today, here, on this occasion, it's also heartbreaking. I told you that I loved her when she was 25. In the years since, in all those years, I never stopped loving her. The last 3 speakers are members of her family. Holly Gordon.
Maya Angelou said, "I've learned that people forget what you've said,
They forget what you did, but they never forget how you made them feel." I think all who knew Tinka experienced Tinka's incredible sweetness, her sparkling spirit, her radiant kindness, and her capacity for joy. Tinka's greatest satisfaction was in sharing her gifts with others, in her personal relationships, and in her mission throughout her career to better the lives of those with whom she worked. My cousin Chrissy Hines, who lost a brother to cancer in the last year and whose sister Kathy Enquist is also here, visiting us and supporting us in this, said to me that she reflected after her brother's passing, let the people you know, let the people you love know how much you feel it. And Tinka did just that. Tinka always signed her emails to her intimates with love, boldly with a capital L, not an emoticon or XOX. Tinka's greatest joy was in mothering her son Max, who is now 19, 18, 19. She had overflowing happiness at being in your company. Max told me that over the most recent winter break, before Tinka would leave for work, she would wake him up and give him a hug. He said he would listen for the sound of her car at the end of the day, and he would be filled with security and happiness to be in her company when she came home. It will be her loving presence that Max will miss the most, and it will also be her loving presence that he will carry inside him throughout your life. Tinka was a quiet person with a deeply engaged, thoughtful, and compassionate presence. For anyone who was struggling, let me just take a minute. For anyone who was struggling, Tinka lent a serious and careful ear, offering her wise counsel after she had grasped the situation. She gave an insightful, empathic, and measured and realistic assessment of numerous sticky situations for us. Once David was struggling with a difficult faculty member, and after hearing about this member's undermining acts, she said to David, "This person is poisoning your leadership. He has to go." She was not afraid to call a situation for what it was and to act decisively. Tinka's generosity is, I'm sure, familiar to all of you. 4 years ago, we were in the process of moving, and Tinka came to visit our new house during a heat wave. Our son Jeremy was very upset about the move and was complaining about how hot the new house was. When we arrived later at Tinka's house to house sit, during our transition, they were in Hawaii and we were house sitting. Tinka had left most of the windows in her house open to draw the draft, leaving her house not secured in order to offer Jeremy the utmost comfort. Tinka's smile of recognition when we met conveyed her tremendous warmth, and her delight was a gift that all who knew her enjoyed. She laughed easily, and some of my favorite moments in my life were times when she laughed till she cried. She'd begin laughing, usually at somebody doing something kind of ironic. And then her eyes would blink, and then they'd blink more quickly. And then her eyes would fill with tears, and then we would all dissolve in a joyful union with her around that funny little incident. Tinka was a middle child, and my parents referred to her as Solomon. She often adjudicated family disputes even-handedly. My mother would quote a line from a poem about middle children. "Middle children are nice to marry," referring admiringly to Tinka's even temperament and flexible disposition. Tinka had a stunning intellect. I remember wondering as a child how someone, Tinka, can always get straight A's. Isn't there a teacher whose teaching style or course content eludes you? She got into the most desirable college at the time, University of Santa Cruz, UCSC, and then went to Stanford Business School. Tinka read 3 newspapers a day. When we house sat for her for 2 weeks, she asked me to save the papers so she could read them when she got home. She was never one to put her feet up intellectually. Her wide knowledge, her deep care, and her delightful sense of humor made conversations with her food for the mind and the soul. My mother also said that getting information from Tinka was like pulling hen's teeth. And Tinka did not often communicate about her inner life. Tinka was a private person, keeping her concerns to herself, uncomplaining about whatever challenged her. She had her first breast cancer when she was 33, and she stayed with us after her surgery and during each round of chemotherapy. I was with her when she received her first diagnosis, and she accepted it stoically, determined to do whatever was necessary to live and move forward with her life. I welcomed the chance to be close to her, to ask her about herself, about her symptoms from her chemotherapy, to letting me care for her. With this recent breast cancer diagnosis also, David and I wanted to stay close to her, visiting and calling. On the night of her passing, I called her at 8:30 to check in, and there was no answer. I didn't know, but she had called 911 and gone to the emergency room. We later got a call from Arnie to come to the Kaiser ICU, where she was unconscious. I held her arm, trying to reach her, asking her to move toward my voice, to rejoin me, to join the living. One had to stop and listen to find Tinka, in life and now in her passing. My acupuncturist told me to set up an altar for Tinka with photos, a candle, flowers, and I should talk to her. I now stop and listen and try to find her. Her sweetness, her wisdom, her joy. It is difficult because I want so much more of her, and I rebel against settling for her absence, for conjuring her in my mind and in my memories. A month after her death, I had a dream. And in my dream, she and I were in a big parking lot behind kind of a stadium, and we were going to meet our boys. And I think my boys were watching you play a game of baseball. And she and I were going to go out for coffee and a pastry. And since she was in the food business, she was telling me about all the different pastry vendors. Which she loved being in the food business. She just loved thinking about food. And then in my dream, I thought, "Whoa, she's recovered. I didn't know she's recovered." And then I went back, and I remembered saying goodbye to her. And then in the dream, I realized she had come back. She knew I wanted to see her again. She had found me, and I had found her across the barrier of death. And I must go forward with a new relation to Tinka, and I will see where it leads me. T.S. Eliot's words guide me, for last year's words belong to last year's language, and next year's words await another voice. To make an end is to make a beginning. Thank you.
Gail Gordon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming. This means a great deal to me and my family. I had a great deal of love for my sister. I always felt that Tinka was my special person, the one who saw me and appreciated my strengths. That I understood that she was many people's special person, using her compassion and intelligence to see what was good and possible in everyone. Our family was full of people with strong opinions. Tinka held back from the fray. Eventually, sensibly, her integrity, fairness, humor, and calm judgment would prevail. For me, Tinka was the centerboard of our family life, helping balance us and keep us moving forward. I will always feel tremendous love, respect, and gratitude towards my sister. I also want to express my gratitude to all who have loved her and to her son Max for bringing her such joy.
The last speaker is one of my oldest friends, Arnie Fishman, Max's father, and Tinka's life partner.
Tinka, when we were first friends in Santa Cruz, you were only a few years older than Max is now. I remember a party we were at then. We were two wallflowers, and we ended up dancing with each other. I remember thinking, this girl is actually pretty hot. I think something more could easily have happened then. If it had, we would have had so many more years together. But it was not until some 15 years later, with some persistent nudging from our matchmaker, Karen, that we did finally become more than friends. And more did happen. Much more. So much more. Tinka, life partner. Now it is time for me to say thank you and goodbye. Thank you for talking through the challenges of almost 20 years of parenting. Thank you for the sound of your car pulling into the driveway, bringing home Chipotle for Max. Thank you for the hours spent watching mama monk seals and their pups frolicking on a remote Kauai beach. Thank you for schmoozing with all the other parents at all of Max's baseball games while I kept score. Thank you for your smile that lit up the world. Thank you for being the mom who brought home Ghirardelli chocolate, organic nut butter, and pizza for Max and all his friends and all his teammates and all his teachers. Thank you for being a take-charge person who always knew what to do. Thank you for the warm and cozy nest you made for our child. Thank you, Tinka, for being so giving, for the advice and support you gave to everyone around you, for helping young people get started in their careers, for helping me through the setbacks in my work, for giving so much to your sisters, to your nephews, to your mom, to so many colleagues, and to everyone you mentored. Thank you, Tinka, for giving in a way that never diminished you, but made you bigger. The more you gave, the more of you had to give. I want to learn from that. Tinka, thank you above all for the deep and lasting love you have given to our Max. Thank you for giving Max to all of us. Tinka, thank you for giving me so much happiness. I was wanting so much more of you. As Max went off to start the next journey of his own life, I hoped for a renewal of our love. I wanted so much more of you. We all wanted so much more of you. We always will. Thank you for giving so much to all of us who are here today and to all of those who are not. Thank you, Tinka. Thank you for all of this as I say goodbye. Memories of you fill this room and far beyond. May your memory be a blessing for all of us. Goodbye, Tinka.
Thanks, Arnie. We are at the end of this part of the memorial. The next part is a reception in Stern Hall, which is just across the hallway there. Please stay, get something to eat, talk, and hug. I'm going to close with my own words, just 3, but I invite you to substitute your own closing words if you wish, whatever seems right to you. Goodbye, dear Tinka.
crying so hard before I speak.